Story time with Investment Dojo. So years ago, I used to work for a company called Stratton Oakmont. You know, Wolf on Wall Street, those guys. Yes, they were Burnham and Churnham, and they were a bucket shop. And I got licensed there. In fact, I got a 91.2 on my license, and I stayed there for a year and a half, and then they went out of business. Now, they were supposed to be, I would say, compliant during that period of time that I was there because they were taping all the phone calls. All the crazy stuff happened before I got there. But I saw some crazy stuff while I was there. I saw them raid another company. I won't say the company's name, but I saw them raid another company, and it was the craziest things. But through it all, I learned a lot, and I got a chance to see what the children look like. Here's what I mean. Lehman Brothers, remember Lehman before they went out of business with the mortgage crisis? Well, the reality behind it is they taught all of Wall Street how to cold call. So we would be cold calling, standing all day, rebuttals, and we'd go at it hardcore, calling Dun and Bradstreets, right? These are the top businessmen around America. And I got a chance to see how they traded in the trading room. And we take IPOs. We had a ton of IPOs, and these IPOs would go from 7 to 49 and go parabolic, and then it'd go just as parabolic on the way down. Learned some lessons there. And I saw how we would be the liquidity. We would take them out of their positions, the trading account of the firm. They'd make the money off of us buying companies, and our clients were the liquidity. It was the craziest place ever. And I don't regret it because I learned a lot and I wouldn't be here. Because then I went to a research firm and I learned how to do some solid research. And that's how I became who I am and retired at 50. But the reality behind it is I saw a lot. And I saw a lot of what Wall Street does now on a bigger scale. See, Wall Street can't come to you with a name because it'd be a base that you don't recognize, or that their firm doesn't back, because it'd be a baseless presentation. And if you sue them or say, hey, well, they can get in trouble, lose their job, and potentially even, depending on what it is, lose their license. And so they don't want to get caught in something that does not make sense. So they're going to bring you companies that you know. So when you think about companies like Oracle, well, let's talk a little bit if you don't mind. This video is going to be a little bit longer, but I want you to understand something. So if you think about Oracle, they do about 50 last year, withstanding not this year, but the year before, they did $57 billion in revenue. They have about $80+ billion in debt, right? They make enough cash flow to cover their debt service by about 4.7 times. But what the street did is they gave Oracle credit for the same thing that they discredited NVIDIA for. They said, hey, $300 billion in backlog by OpenAI. Now you have $450 billion in backlog, right? But OpenAI was 65% of their revenue. Yes, backlog. Then you got NVIDIA with 40% of the street as far as their clients, but they have the biggest purses. Now, you got to realize something. This is a race to own landscape. Don't you let these analysts, these clowns, tell you that it's a bubble. Yes, you're going to have pockets that are bubbles because they're going to keep running it. Like a SanDisk that goes up 1,200%, right? With negative free cash flow. How you like that? Well, hey, and if you get caught at it, looking at it and looking at it and looking at it, and you make the wrong move, then guess what happens? I hope you got a parachute because it's going to be a rough ride down, right? I called it on Oracle. Oracle, they ran it from 100 and something to 347. I said, something smells like fish. And the reality behind it is it then went down to about 1 and change, right? So you got to realize something. How are they going to do it? You got a company growing by free cash flow like NVIDIA, pounding it out. Customers are trying to break down their doors to get their GPUs, the Blackwell, and the next Rubin and the Rubin Ultra, all these things, right? Then you got a company that's growing by debt, right? Oracle. So which is going to be the safest bet if you're long term? Because not only are you betting that they can do it, you're betting that they can succeed on the debt and debt service. There's a lot more risk there, right? But as you're the new investor, Oracle's a good company. Ellison, Larry, he's my guy, right? Well, that's what they're banking on because they can't get in trouble for buying Oracle, right? Because mostly all companies cover or have a research report on Oracle. You get the point? They're going to use names to run the stock to play the games. And the reality is you might fall for it. This is why it's so important to learn how to do research. So if you don't know, now you know. Ask I Dojo, April 18th. We're going to stop that. You're going to learn a lot. You're going to be able to put a symbol in and get a full 10-page report. It's going to be nice, really nice.